Morning, everybody. Good morning, all. It is 10 o'clock on Monday, June 8th, and my name is Bettina Swigger, and I am the CEO of Downtown SLO, and it is my pleasure to welcome you to what I believe is the 12th of our weekly Zoom calls since the COVID-19 crisis began. So my voice is a little rusty today. There's been a lot of challenging and thought-provoking conversations taking place in our community over the last week. And we're looking forward to moving forward together as we move into the next phase of, well, actually, I probably shouldn't use the phase word. We move into the next gradual moment of our reopening of our downtown. So again, my name is Bettina, and co-hosting today's call is Rachel Maiorino, our Chief Operating Officer. So we will be guiding you through the slides today. Our intent today is to have a discussion and a conversation. So if you would like to pop any questions you might have into the chat, we'll try to address those as they come up in real time. I would just like to take a moment to acknowledge the fact that our community, like all communities across the nation and the world, have been witness and participants in some pretty amazing protests and rallies around the concept of social justice and fighting for, fighting against inequality. And so we're really pleased that the protests and rallies that took place in our community last week were peaceful. And we watched with everybody along in real time how those realities played out. So we're going to be having difficult conversations going forward. We know there's a lot of education that's necessary. But at Downtown SLO, we are really committed to providing a place where the economy can thrive and providing a place that is safe and welcoming for all people. So on today's call, we are going to really, we're going to invite our usual speakers and guests to come forward and talk about what's coming next in the reopening of our state, county, and city reopening. And we're also going to talk a little bit about some next phases for each of your businesses and our organization. So our board of directors will be meeting tomorrow in a closed session. It's hard to believe, folks, that it's been a month since we last met, but that is happening. So we will be meeting at 7:30 a.m. And you should have received, if you're on the board of directors, you should have received an agenda packet. And this is an important meeting because we will be approving a provisional budget that will guide us through the first quarter of the next fiscal year. Our fiscal year wraps up on June 30th, so we're moving into a new fiscal year with a lot of uncertainty, but we're trying to do the best to plan for the world that's changing all the time. So thank you to our board of directors for your service and leadership. Rachel, would you like to talk a little bit about where today we are?
Yeah, today, well, as of Friday, the county isn't reporting over the weekend, and it'll be updated again today. But as of Friday, we were at 291 positive cases and still thankfully holding at 1 death in the county. Regarding the business operations, the state's recommendations for face masks within businesses still holding true, and each business will kind of check in their specific pieces. So for example, a restaurant, when you're eating you obviously can't wear a face mask while you're eating, but each segment has their specific guidelines, which Bettina will be touching on next. And for the California Resilience Roadmap, Bettina is going to be touching on more developments that will be coming Friday. And Bettina, now I'm going to turn it over to you to talk about those future developments.
Great, thanks, Rachel. So we are still in stage 2, and I know there are a lot of different pieces of information that's coming out. And I just want to remind everybody that certain counties have written letters of attestation and have gotten approval from the governor to go forward in more expanded areas of operation. So San Luis Obispo County is now in the place where we can have dine-in restaurants, we can have retail, we can have barbers and hair salons. We got word this morning that June 12th, there will be another set of expanded reopening guidelines coming out. And that will include gyms, that will include bars and restaurants without a dine-in component. So we believe that that means that if you're a bar that doesn't serve food, you will be open, you'll be able to open on June 12th. We are getting this information at the same time as everybody else. So we'll be guiding you to get more information about what that means from the state and from the county and from the city. But I did just want to remind everybody that as of today, Monday, June 8th, we are still in stage 2. So with that, I'd like to call on our trustee Lee Johnson, the Director of Economic Development at the City of San Luis Obispo. Lee, are you out there?
I am here. Can you hear me, Bettina?
Yes, hello. How are you today, Lee?
Oh, good. Very good. Trying to keep up with everything that's happening. So you want me to update on where we are on the reopening and everything first?
Yeah, if you could
Okay.
talk a little bit about that and then go into sort of what we experienced last week and any insights.
Sure.
You might have into that.
Just so everyone's on the same page, the state has released a group of new or segments that are able to open no sooner than this Friday. So the county can decide that some of those could open later than this Friday. That's all still being discussed. Dr. Bornstein is reviewing all of the guidance that came out. The guidance is on the county's website, emergencyslo.org, under the reopening. So there's 13 new groups and campgrounds, card rooms, casinos, childcare, day camps, blah, 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 gyms, fitness, etc. Hotels for tourism and leisure is a big one. Restaurants, wineries, and bars now that have their own guidance, and that guidance is slightly different than what restaurants had before. So it's worth checking what's up there, and I think we'll get more word this week from Dr. Bornstein, the exact timing of these 13 areas. She may say they're all Good Friday. She may some go at a future date, but my guess is we'll start to get clarity around dates as we progress through the week. Go ahead.
Yeah, just to piggyback on that, we did discover that the county is having their budget hearings today. So they have canceled today's usual press briefing that was to take place at 3:15.
Correct. But my guess is we may get, I think Dr. Bornstein's on another call at 11, and I'm thinking she's going to say something there about that, and we could get written clarification or something else. But it's kind of moving at this point. Definitely nothing new before Friday, and I'm sure by middle of the week we should have a good idea of what she's going to release by Friday. Okay. Other than that, as far as the various rallies, marches, etc., that we had last week, it was, a lot happened last week. There's a lot of communication with the people who are kind of coordinating everything, a lot of channels that we tried to use to keep everybody up to date. I think we got better at it as the week progressed. For those of you who aren't watching the social media and the link on the website that talks about the protests, that is worth watching those to see what's happening. As soon as we have information, we put it up. We are getting information that there could be another event tomorrow. We're still working to determine who is coordinating that and what's happening. I think some of the people we've been working with are involved. So that leads to good communication and allows us to make sure we're all on the same page and we can make it as productive and safe as possible. Otherwise, the OPD is police department will be putting out an FAQ later today or tomorrow, and growing it as we go to help answer a lot of the questions that they've been getting across the board about various things and how they work. And so that will be coming out. And then the city council task force that the council agreed to move ahead with will be meeting later this week to start their work on what we can do here in San Luis Obispo.
Great.
That's it for me.
Thank you, Lee. And I'd just like to chime in there and say, if you don't follow the City of SLO on Instagram, you should start immediately. And another good resource if you're interested in staying informed about potential future actions of all kinds, really, but especially related to public safety, is the Chief of Police, Deanna Cantrell, has a Twitter feed that she's been diligently updating. So for all of the marches that were taking place last week, there was a real-time update of where the marches were going, what intersections were being crossed, and when the peaceful protests were concluded. So those are some other great resources for you to look into. Great. Okay. Next up, I think we have a call in from Courtney Keno from our board of directors, our Cal Poly liaison. Are you on the line, Courtney?
I am, and I actually made it back just in time to have my face in front of you all. I apologize, or I don't know, but here I am. So thank you. Yes, so there's been a few emails that the president sent out to our campus community in the last week regarding the protests, his support for the peaceful protests, and acknowledging the hurt and anger and all of the emotions that are surrounding so many during this time. As a part of one of those emails, he also checked in with our Vice President of Diversity and Inclusion and the number of individuals that are working in the diversity, equity, and inclusion space, and had some book recommendations that we put out for our campus community, which, Rachel, thank you so much for getting those up on the screen for us. And so, I mean, I feel like, Bettina, my voice is a little scratchy too from all of these conversations that have been taking place on and off campus with everything that has been going on. And then in terms of the fall, there has not been a new announcement, but there are conversations taking place now to potentially adjust some of what the plans have been. So potentially next week, I will have more information on that. And some of that should be coming out later this week. So more to come for plans for the fall. And finally, I just want to acknowledge really quick, I see that Mark Borges, our ASI president, is on this call. He is about to leave his post. And so grateful for his participation in these calls. And just having that, he's been such an incredible representative of the student voice in conversations throughout the year, but particularly recently. So acknowledging that. And then we also have Senior Advisor for Economic Development, Bob Linscheid. So you all have a lot of Cal Poly support on these calls. We love downtown SLO. And that's it.
Great, Courtney. I did have one question regarding the announcement that we saw this morning. So you, I think, were in a car traveling and maybe haven't seen this, but with the bars being able to reopen, are there any conversations taking place about what graduation might look like? Like this weekend was going to be graduation. How many students are still in town?
Great questions. I don't know. We have tried to, and I wonder if Mark can respond to the number of students that, sorry to put you on the spot, Mark, but how many students are still in town? We have tried a couple of times to get those numbers, and it's been very challenging. Mark, do you have any insight on that?
So thanks, Courtney. Appreciate the earlier sentiments. I think, I'm just trying to think. I would say it's pretty split amongst graduating seniors because there's definitely students who are still in town who may have family members coming here for the weekend to celebrate. But I do know there's also a large amount of seniors who are probably going to travel back home to do things with family members who may not have to travel as far if they were to go back home. So I think with the way that things are, there's still, for businesses, still probably going to get some inquiries about, large reservations and ways that students can still celebrate with their families. But I mean, it's obviously going to be a lot less than traditional years. That's probably all I can think to say at this point.
Are you in SLO, Mark?
I am in SLO.
Hi.
Yeah, I don't know if anyone from Mestiza is on the call, but I did have a reservation. I'm not sure if it was canceled, but just throwing that out there. But really appreciate all of the work from everyone in this group. And I know it's just such a stressful time, but really appreciate everything that the Downtown SLO Association's done.
Mark, this is Rachel jumping in. I just wanted to thank you for your contributions, especially with the Food, Beverage, and Services Committee. Having your voice there, working with the bars and restaurants was so helpful to have that voice from Cal Poly. So thank you for your time.
Absolutely. There's very few, I think, committee meetings that I will tell you I enjoy, and that was absolutely one of them.
Well, congratulations to you and thanks for all your hard work. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Courtney, is there anything else from a Cal Poly perspective that you wanted to add?
Not yet. Next week there will be definitely some bigger updates, but not today, not anymore.
Thank you so much. All right, and next up we have Jim D'Antona from the SLO Chamber of Commerce with an update.
Hi there, Bettina. How are you? Good to see you. Just wanted to give folks update. We are obviously still working on providing as much information as we can as you are, just making sure everybody's getting the information about what's coming open on June 12th. How are we, how do you have to do, what do you have to do to get it open? And one of those things that we had just last week was a webinar with Dave Yunke and Kathy Eppright, two attorneys who work on employment law and business law, to talk about kind of what should you be doing when you open. It was about an hour webinar, and it will be up on our website probably later today, tomorrow, for download. But overall, one of the biggest things that everybody was talking about was, or they were talking about and the questions came in about, are employment status. How do I get people, if I furloughed them, if I laid them off, if I want to get them back, but they won't come back? How is all of that coming? And there were a lot of different questions, and I would say go to the webinar video in order to kind of get that information. But the biggest thing is documenting everything that you're doing. So if you're talking with a former employee or an employee on furlough and they want to come back or they don't want to come back, you should confirm that in some way. Text, probably not the best way, but at least email, if not a formal written letter saying, hey, here was the conversation we had. You said you didn't want to come back. As of X date, I'm going to hire someone new for that position. If you think that's going to also probably knock them off of unemployment, I wouldn't count on that. Based on the current, how the state is looking at a lot of these things, they probably will still keep it. But it will protect you legally later on if all of a sudden they feel like, wait, you didn't tell me that. So I would say there's a lot of great information that came from that. Another huge piece was workers' comp, which is going to be a huge issue for businesses. If a person comes to work and they get COVID-19 some point within the 14 days that they came to work, it is considered work comp. It is going to be put on you automatically, unless you can somehow prove beyond some kind of reasonable doubt, which is almost going to be impossible, that they did not get it from there. And again, most of that's going to be if they have come to your place of business for work. Doesn't even have to be a lot, like they came in for an 8-hour shift. If they came to drop something off and they get it within that 14-day period, then you will probably hit with work comp. So work closely with your insurance companies on these issues, because that's it's going to be a big deal, and unfortunately, it's going to hit the employers the most. So evaluating who needs to be at the office and who doesn't is a big deal. we should do that. So again, this week we've got a webinar that will be with the folks from Glenn Burdett. This one will be free webinar on Thursday from 2 to 3. We'll talk a little bit about what the new things opening and how to look at what you need to do. But most importantly, we're going to have folks from Glenn Burdett talking about how to ensure that you're getting the PPP credits and making sure to walk that back and for utilizing payroll and the expense that you did, so that turns into a grant and not a loan. And then finally, dealing with the greater issues that we've been facing as an entire society, our working lunch, which is Friday on our Facebook Live from 12 to 12:30. We will have Courtney Hale from Race Matters SLO talking with us. She's a board member of ours, but she's been one of the people leading these discussions, which have led to some very peaceful but powerful demonstrations in our community. And having coming up, my former employment was Los Angeles, seeing what they're going through. I give credit to all the people that have been in these demonstrations and protests because they have been peaceful and they have been powerful. So I thank you for having us here. And again, whatever we can do to help our business community stay healthy, stay afloat, and get through this, we're here for it.
Great, thanks, Jim. And I look forward to hearing that conversation with Courtney. We at Downtown SLO had a really wonderful experience working with Courtney and with Race Matters SLO on a collaboration for the Belonging Portraits and Perspective exhibit, which is actually still up in our office right now at 1135 Choro. And the work that organization is doing to educate our community and provide and amplify voices that aren't historically or regularly heard in our communities is really valuable. So that, I'm sure, will be a good meeting, and it's great that Courtney is on the chamber board. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Bettina. And thanks for mentioning Race Matters SLO, because I don't think I said it in the time. Obviously, that's the group she leads, and it's fabulous, and they're doing amazing work to conduct these challenging dialogues with us.
Yeah, so Race Matters SLO, and then another organization, if you'd like to educate yourself, is the NAACP SLO County chapter. And I believe they are having a public meeting by Zoom, of course, tomorrow. And if you look up their website, it's an NAACP SLO County on Facebook. You can see the invite there. And I know they're seeing expanded membership, and it's really important to hear what's going on in their world during these times. And in our world, it's all our world. So thank you for that, Jim. And I'm really interested too in that conversation about workers' comp. That's going to have some long-term effects on our economic recovery, and it'll be really interesting to see how that plays out. Okay. Going back to getting back to business, we have distributed 133 of the We Got This kits, and that has been such a great resource. Our ambassador, Austin, has gone around and distributed these to our businesses. Nisha Johnston has also gone out, smiling faces under their masks, handing out sanitizer, gloves, masks, and other equipment so that we can safely welcome our community back to downtown. So thank you to Guaranteed Rate Mortgage and Donna Lewis on our board of directors for sponsoring that program. And just a reminder that we do have a 501c3 organization called the Friends of Downtown SLO. And if you'd like to make a charitable organization to support our efforts, you can do so at downtownslo.com/donate. So with that, we'd actually like to open up and have a little bit of a conversation about the opportunities and challenges you all are seeing as we get back to business. And the picture here is taken in our beautiful Rose Alley. Did you know it was called Rose Alley, next to Giuseppe's? We're hearing from some of you that you are having challenges rehiring staff, that maybe some of your staff have left because their school started being taught remotely, or they're facing childcare issues. And so we thought this would be a good opportunity to open it up to you all and say, A, how are you dealing with these issues? B, are you hiring? and see how can our organization help you in this time. So is anybody out there interested in chiming in about what their experience has been? I'm not seeing anything in the chat. I know, David, you mentioned that last week in your update from Hotel SLO. Are you finding luck getting people to come back?
Yes, sorry, I was on mute, but yeah, we've staged it. So we're not opening all the facilities at the same time, and we're adding each week as business levels improve. We've had some people say no, they prefer to wait because they're on unemployment. And everybody knows how that works. So far, so good. There's definitely a need for more people, but we're trying to bring back the people that we currently had hired previously. Most of the furloughed associates are back at work with a few exceptions. And then those that are laid off, we're bringing them back, 3 or 4 at a time. I think I brought 11 people back last week, keeping the week last, and then I'm bringing on a few more this week as well. So currently we're not running, our Ox and Anchor, but we're running the rooftop bar, restaurant, Piadina, both indoors and outdoors. So we continue to add people as the need is there. And I'm sure that once the unemployment changes, people will be asking to come back. The real issue is timing. Do we hire other people if they don't want to come back now, or do we wait? And from a business standpoint, we hire people as the business levels allow us to do that. So the people that really understand the fact is, yeah, I may be doing well right now, staying home and making the same amount of money, but when this ends, I'm going to need a job. Will that job be available for me? And those are the folks that mostly have come back at this point. So.
Okay, yeah, we're seeing in the chat, we're currently hiring. Some people are not coming back or not for many hours because they don't want to compromise.
Well, we are doing one thing. We're telling the associates that we do bring back that we will give them 40 hours. So some people have come and said, hey, I only want to work part-time, which is fine. But those that are coming back that are getting their 40 hours, it's more or less a wash for them. And quite frankly, for the servers, when an average night of tips might be, $150, we're seeing, people tipping out at $400 or $500 because there are less of them serving more people, which is problematic from a service standpoint, but certainly good for them. So it's a balancing act, business versus service versus people that can come back to work and when they can come back to work. Right.
Well, and there's the whole question of the consumer confidence too, right? I mean, we're seeing that the foot traffic downtown. What is that looking like? At the Gold Concept, Aaron says they're functioning under reduced hours. They're uncertain whether or not they're going to be rehiring. So maybe shoppers are coming back, but how many? And it's not what it was like before the shutdown. And it's an additional challenge that before the shutdown, we were just coming out of sort of those slow January, February months. So it's hard to even kind of remember or conceptualize what a regular month felt like because we've been in this reality for such a long time.
Well,
right.
It doesn't help that most of the big chain stores are boarded up currently, and that certainly doesn't help bringing people back to town, both locally or recreationally. So I'm hoping that that this week, as people can travel more freely, things will open up more, and we expect to see things continue to increase. We've seen increases each week. So if that trend continues, then we're very happy. If it stalls, that could be problematic, probably not only just for us, but for everybody.
Yeah. Thank you. Anybody else want to chime in on this topic? I mean, we could talk for hours just on this one issue. Okay, well, please reach out. We're interested in, continuing to hear about your experiences and again, how we can help you. We will try to connect with you offline in ways that are meaningful to you. Just wanted to remind you that our organization is going through some hard times as well, and I shared this information with the group last week. But our staff has been pretty dramatically impacted because of our organizational's financial challenges. And I just wanted to take a few minutes to say a very profound thank you and farewell to our 3 team members who are leaving us this week. It is such a challenge to say goodbye to you. We are going to miss you so much. And I look back on the last 18 months that we spent building a team and really creating just a fantastically interesting and welcoming and creative and fun workplace together. I hope that our organization rebounds quickly. I hope that our downtown comes back so that we can continue to regrow. But I just want to say a very profound thank you to Kat Thompson, to Nisha Johnston, and an enormous round of thanks to Brent Vanderhoof, who's been with our organization for 13 years. So thank you to all of you, and we'll be looking forward to a changed future. It won't be the same without you. But thank you for continuing to be our ally and our friend. So we do have these austerity measures that are effective this week. We have a 50% reduction in our operating budget. We're still continuing to plan for how to safely resume our events, including our farmers market, which is in flux right now, and we're continuing to advocate for and support our downtown. We do this in a variety of ways, right? So we work with the International Downtown Association, the California Downtown Association, Main Street America, and I was on a call this morning with the International Downtown Association, a group of about 6 CEOs from England, Australia, Santa Monica, Chicago, and other cities. And everybody is dealing with this together. And I know it's such a challenging time and words only do so much, but hearing about everyone's experience through this time really helps put things in perspective. Other communities have it a lot worse than us. Other communities have it better. But we continue to share those learnings and those resources, and we'll continue to do so going forward. We are hoping that Judy would be able to join us, but she's a little late to the call, I believe. Rachel, is Judy on there yet?
She's not. She had to squeeze in some meetings. So what we may do, she would be able to join us at 10:45. So my recommendation would be to include the information on the PPP updates in a member email to follow. And if any of you have any questions in the meantime, please reach out and we can connect you with their team at the SBDC to get you the updates on the PPP that was signed into effect.
Okay, great. So with that in mind, let's open it up for general questions. It seems like you all are a pretty quiet group today, but we would love to hear from you. We have some good people on the call with some very deep resources. We have a diverse group of people who are business leaders. Any questions from all of you? We did get a message from one of our restaurant owners with some questions about the specificities of the bars opening June 12th. And unfortunately, we don't have a lot of clarity around that. We are getting the information in real time, just like everybody else. So we're looking forward to learning more about that. But yes, I did get your question and we can answer more of those questions. Or Lee, do you want to chime in?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure we'll get more as the week progresses, but on the county site, they have the guidance for restaurants, wineries, and bars. So they already have that up at emergency SLO, and then go to the reopening section, and they have all the groups that are pending to be approved, and they have guidance for restaurants, wineries, and bars, so that people who are getting ready to open can read that guidance, fill out the self-certification, have it ready to go. So whenever the county does allow them to open, they're ready to go. And so the self-certification is the key, and the details that are needed to do that are available on the county's website at this point. Then as soon as we know the date, they'll be ready to go.
Great. So as usual, we're kind of advocating for you to familiarize yourself with all of the guidelines, get all the materials you need, memorize it back and forth, fill out the self-certification, and be ready for when the governor says you're good to go. Jim, did you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, well, Lee hit it right on the head with getting ready for those restaurants, wineries, bars, and being ready. That the county website really has some great stuff, and it does have that next section of folks ready to open on June 12th. So to check on that site that Rachel has dropped on there. I wanted to ask a question because I haven't heard from some of my folks. Don't know if folks here have heard. When do folks think they will take down the boarding on windows? Are we waiting for all of it to stop? Have we seen enough? Anybody have any thoughts on that or heard anything on that?
So the boarding, particularly in the national stores, is controlled regionally. Primarily out of risk management. And I only know this because I had a conversation with Jamestown last week. But the national brands or flags that we have, or anchors as they call them, are controlled regionally. So even if our county allows something, if regionally they aren't allowed, then they may not onboard their facilities, although they're strongly being encouraged to.
That's good info. All right, thanks, Ed.
Yeah, I wonder, Mark, are you on the call, Mark Rawson? If you could provide some perspective from Jamestown, that would be helpful. Oh, I guess he's not there anymore. Yeah, my understanding too is that the boards started going up because they were from national corporate offices, and that they are beginning to come down. I did a quick walk around this morning, and the only ones that are boarded up currently are I believe, corporate chains.
Can I ask a question as well to the group? Is that okay? I checked in with our Vice President of Student Affairs about your question, Bettina, about how many students and their families might be in town this weekend. And he also said he's not sure, but suggested, wanting to know if any of the bars are planning to open early in the case that there should be some crowds. So I don't know if anyone on the call has any ideas or thoughts about that, but we would love to hear what is planned if there are plans.
I can speak to that as well. This weekend, we have several parents coming to town, even under this, to pick up their children from Cal Poly that have stayed or remained behind. They've asked that very question. I've got several calls over the last 2 weeks because they want to have small social gatherings, of course, which we're limited to. So I would expect that because a lot of people are still in town and our occupancy is almost to the limit that we're allowed right now, with this weekend coming up, that you'll see some activity downtown, people saying goodbye maybe to their favorite watering holes. That would be my guess.
Yeah.
Thanks, David.
And Courtney, we notified, I believe, Rachel, you sent an email to, can you talk about the email that you forwarded this morning?
Yeah, this morning I sent out kind of what we've touched on about the reopening on or after this Friday to our Food, Beverage, and Services Committee. So far, I haven't heard anything about anyone opening early, but should that information come up, Courtney, I'll connect with you so we can get that conversation going on what that might look like and the messaging.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Rachel.
We have another question in the chat, and I'm wondering, Lee, if you could take this. What is the city's position on having people wear masks?
The city's position is we follow the county's guidance. So the county's guidance may be moving a little bit on restaurants and things, but in general, if you cannot maintain the social distancing, of 6 feet, you should have a mask on. And under the current guidelines for the businesses that are allowed to be open, if you are serving or closer than 6 feet in a restaurant, you are required to wear a mask. In other facilities, it's highly recommended. So that's like, we follow the county's guidance, and that's kind of where the county's guidance is.
Great, thank you, Lee. And I believe, as I mentioned earlier, the county is having a big budget meeting today. Presumably they will not be discussing masks, but I think that is a topic that's on a lot of people's minds. So you might direct that question to the county. I understand that John Ashbaugh has a question next. John, are you up?
Thank you, Bettina. I just wanted to point out from the point of view of the History Center, we've been closed for the duration, but we actually are now going to, I believe, within a few days, rehire our the weekend staff that we normally have deployed in the History Center, but we're going to put them at the Day. And the Day would be open then for casual visitors, and even we were delighted to see just a few weeks ago already that outdoor gardens were able to be opened again. So the Day actually has had Dave Hannings out there producing all kinds of vegetables, and anybody who wants to go over and say hi to Dave is welcome to do so. But just a larger point is that, I think leisure travel is going to take a long time to recover here. And the History Center, is part of what makes the downtown, I think, attractive to our leisure travelers. But I think we're also going to be seeing more interest on the part of leisure travelers to close by destinations like ours. And I wonder if that's been the opinion of some of our other members here about whether that's something we might expect even, a faster recovery in that line of activity relative to other kind of international travelers.
I think that's a great question. I don't believe we have anybody from the travel industry on the call right now, but I have been on a number of meetings with Visit SLOCal and with Molly Kano, who's the tourism coordinator for the city of SLO. And I think you're right on about that, John. We do anticipate seeing more intra-county travel as opposed to intra-state travel. So that'll be an interesting moment. I mean, I think San Luis Obispo, from my perspective, I moved here 10 years ago, and it has really honed and developed a reputation as a tourism, it's always been a tourism destination, but I think that has expanded and become more profound over the last 10 years and over the last 4 years specifically. So it's an interesting moment to observe how you can advertise for tourism when you're not supposed to advertise for tourism. That might be a really good topic to cover in a future call because our downtown does rely so much on travel.
Thank you.
Lorelei, do you want to talk a little bit more about what you just dropped in the chat?
Yeah, you bet. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, so for the last couple of weeks, we've been working with our friends at California Stewardship Network and California Forward. They put on the Economic Summit every year. And basically, we're a group of about 12 to 15 regions now together across the state that get together quarterly to share solutions and really great best practices in workforce development. And a lot of the challenges that our neighbors are facing, say in Tahoe, are similar to the ones we have here. So kind of collaborate. But this mini summit will be on June 23rd, and we're just kind of pulling together the program and speakers now, and we'll have a little bit more information to share next week. But it'd be great to have representation from our region as much as we can, some kind of rallying to see who, our people are that are, really excited to see what everybody else is doing across the state and how we can apply those best practices to San Luis Obispo. And more importantly, to share the really exciting things we're doing here and kind of elevate our profile and get our name on the map for some of the great work that's being done at our Cal Poly, Cuesta County Office of Ed has a great apprenticeship program that everyone's been trying to model for years, and they can't seem to figure out a way to do it as well as we're really doing it. So really great stuff going on, and I will definitely share more information next week.
Great, thanks, Lorelei. Hey, yeah. Do you have any insight into how air travel has been coming back or not? Do you have a
You know, I've just been seeing the same information you guys all probably have about the slowness of things coming back or not. It's really a good question for Chuck Davison. You can pull them in and I can report back to the group. We're going to see what we know in-house.
Great. Great. Okay, any other questions out there? And has Judy joined the call?
I'm here.
Oh, great timing. Welcome, Judy.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Glad to be on the call. So thank you for having me again here this morning. We do have updates on the PPP loan forgiveness portion of the guidelines that have come out. They came out, let's see, I'm looking at my updates. We received them on Saturday at 6 p.m. No rest for the weary. No, we're not weary at all. We're really, really stoked to be seeing these updates. They're very positive for business owners. So I'll go over the highlights. Under the prior guidelines, business owners had 8 weeks to spend down their loan. That's been extended to 24 weeks. So that's a huge, big deal, a lot more time to spend down those loan funds. And that's the covered period. It's called the covered period, the time during which you have to spend down those funds. So instead of 8 weeks, we now have 24 weeks. The other big major change was during that 24-week period, you only need to spend 60% of your loan amount on payroll. I don't know if you'll recall, for those of you who are on the call, it was at 75%. 75% of the loan had to be spent on payroll. It's now down to 60%. The remaining 40% still has to be spent on rent, utilities, or interest payments. So what you can spend it on has not changed, but the percentages have changed. And again, you have 24 weeks to spend 60% of the loan on payroll. The other important piece was you had to hire back to the full-time level that you had prior to COVID, prior to February 15, as of June 30th. That has been extended a full 6 months, all the way till December 31st. So you now have until December 31st to hire back at the level you were at prior to February 15. And that's still in effect right now, you can show that your business was not able to return to previous levels, either due to safety restrictions or because, actually that's the only carve out, due to safety restrictions because of the type of business you're in. Those were the main highlights. And the other piece is the unforgiven portion is still at a 1% interest, and it was over a 2-year period. The term was 2 years. It has been extended to 5 years. So actually that is another pretty important piece of a pretty important edit that's been implemented. Something you have to keep in mind as a business owner, after the 24-week period is over, you do need to apply for forgiveness. It's an application you have to do through your lenders. So it's not automated. So put it in your calendar, calculate your 24-week period, and make sure that you're working with your accountant to do the application for forgiveness. That's really crucial, really important. So that's pretty much it. Now is still the time to get a PPP loan if you don't have one. Applications are still being processed. It's still a valid pathway to access funding. So we'd like to encourage those who have not obtained it, who need support, to go for it, especially with these amendments that have been made through the guidelines. It's becoming more and more appealing to try and tap into that. And those are the updates that I have for today.
Great, thank you, Judy. 2 questions spring to my mind. Oh, Carl, did you have something to add?
Yes, I do. Judy did a great job explaining the new rules. However, the 2 to 5 year time frame it's an agreement between the borrower and the bank. Banks are
That's
not
good to know.
required to go to 5 years. Any new loans starting June 5th are 5 years.
That's really good to know. Thanks, Carl. I did not know that. Thank you for the clarification.
It's something that, you know, we're going to look at.
Okay. And I just had two questions that popped up too for both of you, since you're so close to this. One is that application for the loan forgiveness available now? And is there a deadline?
So the deadline, I'll let Carl answer the first part of that question. The deadline is, I believe it's December 31st. But actually, you know what, Carl, I'm gonna let you jump in because I'm not 100% sure.
Well, the deadline for the loans, as long as there's money there. We at PWB made a decision that we have ceased accepting any new loans. We did over 4,000 of them, and we have made the decision now to discontinue.
Okay. But there's a separate application for the forgiveness piece of it, correct?
Yes, we will be sending out to all our borrowers electronic format. We've been waiting for the final ruling, and I think we have it now. So within the next week or so, we will be sending out electronic format, the forms that they'll need for the forgiveness, and what we're going to need from them on the information for verification. But this is all self-verification, and anyone under 2 million pretty much has a safe harbor. So basically, the way I understand it is be forthright in what you've done, and we should be able to make most of the work.
Okay. Great. Well, that's really helpful. And then, Judy, the other question that I had for you is, I understand there's an additional program for lending, but that's more for employees that for companies that have more than 500 employees. Is that correct?
You know, yes. And the last I heard on that is I'm not sure that that is actually approved legislation yet.
Okay.
So there's been a lot of discussion around this. I don't think it's been implemented quite yet. So we're still on the sidelines trying to understand that new program.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else have questions for Judy?
And Bettina, if I can add one interesting piece of information this morning, from what I understand as of Saturday, there's still about $100 billion of PPP loan funding that is still available. So that was actually a very interesting little piece of data that that was shared to us on Saturday. Yeah.
And that's billion with a B.
Correct. B as in boy. Yeah.
Okay. Great. Well, thank you. And I know we'll probably learn more as the minutes and hours unfold. So we look forward to connecting with everybody again next week. And I would like to call on my boss, president of our board of directors, Pat Arnold, at this time. Pat, would you like to say something to our group?
Yeah, I just wanted to say thank you, everybody, for your support. It's been a tough time, and we have such amazing response, both people just listening in and distributing the information, as well as people like Judy and Courtney and Jim and Lee that chime in and allow this to be a good forum for people to share ideas. I also really want to say a personal thank you to Kat and Nisha and Brent. Your service, your ideas, your help, your friendships have been extremely valuable to this organization and to everybody personally. So I thank you very much for everything you guys have done, and look forward to seeing you around. And I will see all the board members tomorrow on the Zoom call, hopefully one of these days in person. But until then, we will talk to you in the morning. And for those on the call, we'll talk to you next week. Thank you very much.
Great. Thanks, Pat, and thanks for your leadership through this time. It's been a journey, and I appreciate you.
It has been a journey. Thank you, Bettina. I appreciate it.
So we are going to continue doing these weekly calls. We'll see you on June 15th at 10 a.m. We will continue doing them until there is not a need for them. So if we hope that you will tell a friend if you find them helpful. It's okay for anybody to join in if they haven't joined before. You don't have to be a repeat attender, although we do encourage that. And with that, I think, Rachel, is there anything else for today? Great. Well, thank you so much for joining us. I hope you have a pleasant day and an enjoyable week. And remember to keep learning and always be a good neighbor, be a good friend, and be welcoming to all in the community. I will see you soon. Thanks.